Welcome back to the show, everyone. Again, my name is Isaac Fagnan, and this is Outside the Box. If you are brand new to the show, welcome. I'm super excited to have you along with this journey. Those of you that have been listening in for the last 4 or 5 weeks, this is episode 5, which is super exciting. I had a friend text me the other day saying, "Hey, most podcasts, I think he said like 90% don't make it past episode 3." So it's like, "You're doing a great job. Keep it up." So that was exciting to hear. And it's really exciting. We're on week 5. I do apologize if my voice is sounding a little bit under the weather. I've not been feeling very good the last few days, but I'm excited to bring you guys this week's episode. Last week, if you haven't listened to it yet with Wilson Wong, such a powerful episode. I love all the weeks, but probably one of my favorites so far, if not my favorite, just in terms of the conversation and what was really just talked about during that episode. I got so much value from it just being there, which is one of my favorite parts about doing this show, is just the value that I get talking with individuals. But if you haven't listened to it, that's last week's episode with Wilson Wong. But as far as this week's go, I'm really excited to be talking with you guys. This will be a one-on-one with myself. And next week, we'll be having another special guest, which is exciting. But this week, this is really about the power of connection and getting into spaces. Now, if you're someone that is doing something brand new in business, maybe you're starting a new chapter of your life. Maybe you're just looking to change things up, like you need a fresh start with something. This is really what this podcast is aimed for. And no matter where you're at in your life with that, you could be young, old, you could be somewhere in between. It could be leaving school. It could be a new job, whatever that is, that new path, that new thing you're doing and going after. What I do know to be true is that it can feel lonely sometimes. It feels weird. You're doing something that's totally foreign to you and foreign to a lot of people around you. And that can be difficult. And that can be difficult in many different ways. But what I want to talk about today is why that's so important and why it's okay to feel that. And more importantly, what are some strategies or things you can do to really help you in those moments when you do feel like you're kind of out of the ordinary, or you're not sure what you're doing or where you're going with it. We've all been there. I've been there. Man, I feel like if you really keep growing and keep going after things in life, that journey doesn't really stop. That journey continues to keep going, and you always feel like you're almost in like this new phase or this weird area of your life where like, I haven't done this before. And I think that's really important, because if you really think about growth and you really think about going after something big, you shouldn't never feel for at least a long period of time like you're like, well, I made it. This all feels really cool. That's it. Alex Hormozy talks about, do something till you're like bored of it. You're so good at it. You're like, man, I can dial this in, which is so important. And you do something so many times that you get so good at it. You're like, this is routine. That's when you become an expert. But I know he would also say that if you stay there and you don't go after chasing something else, you're never really going to grow. And so pairing those two together, I want to look at that side of doing something different, going after something different and trying something new for yourself, where you're in that phase where you're like, man, this is really weird. I don't really have anybody that, is with me on this or knows what I'm doing or is, sure of what I want to really create with this. And that could be a friend, a colleague, it could be family, whatever that is. I really want to bring you guys into an experience that I just went through. Some of you know that I got the opportunity and the chance to attend a conference in Salt Lake City. First time being in Salt Lake City, a beautiful space and area. But I got to attend a conference with Chris Crone, Carlos Reyes, and Pace Morby was there as well, along with some other individuals. But they were amazing. I can't say thank you enough to Chris and Carlos and Pace for speaking at that event, which I didn't even know I was going to listen to and have now been connected to. And I'm going to talk about this here in this podcast. But I want to just bring you into that event. And it's not about the event itself or me going to the event. It's the lessons and the story that I got from this event and how I feel like this really applies to a lot of areas in life. One, this event came through a course that I'd purchased. I didn't know that I even had tickets and ended up having some free tickets to go. Long story short, I had an extra ticket and I was supposed to have a buddy that was supposed to come down and ended up not working out for him. He couldn't make it. And so I'm kind of scrambling to find somebody else to see, who would be interested in this or who would want to go. And, talk to a couple different people. It was just a little bit too last minute, didn't end up lining up. And myself, kind of inside was like, do I really want to go to this by myself and go to Salt Lake City on my own and attend this? Like I was planning on having somebody. And for me, it was a little bit discouraging and it almost was like, I got these for free. What if I just don't go? And I had that thought for a little bit and, making the time to go and also having, just the resources and the money to get the flights and the hotels and all that stuff and managed to do it for really cheap, just looking into it and actually planning it out, which is a huge part of traveling and doing these things. It doesn't have to cost $10,000 to go to something like this. But still in my mind, I was like, I could just not go and I could just, just take the value of what I got from a course and what I'm learning digitally and everything and just go with that. But something inside said, you need to go, right? You've had this ticket, you've planned to go. Yeah, you weren't able to take somebody with you, but you can still go to this event and get tremendous value. So I remember just hopping on the computer, finding tickets, ended up finding for really good price. I got down there for under like $500, got a vehicle rented with it, which was a cool story. Who I met getting the vehicle, they gave me a free upgrade, which was amazing just by talking to this young fella. Gave me an upgrade to this big SUV and had a great time in that part of the trip and ended up getting down for a great price, going to buy food at a grocery store and whatnot and just cooking. Met this amazing guy at this Airbnb. But what I want to talk about is just what I learned from this conference and just making the choice to get down there is I knew this was going to be a new space for me. I went down for a wholesaling boot camp. So another way of doing real estate. Any realtors listening to this, you probably know that term. I might not be your best friend if you know I'm getting into wholesaling or whatever it is. That's irrelevant, but wholesaling is a way of acquiring real estate. There's a lot of different avenues you can do it with. But for me, it was a new space that I had just learned about a few months prior to going to this conference. But it was really intriguing because real estate's always been something that's exciting for me. I've always wanted to get into it and really make it a long-term investment portfolio for me. And so I was really excited about learning something brand new. And to my knowledge, like anybody I talked to didn't really understand this concept. So I was kind of like, wow, this feels really new. Like I don't know anybody that's really doing this. Turns out that there's a lot of people doing this, especially in the States, but I personally didn't know anybody. So for me going into this event, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. And on top of that, this event was not just a motivational event. I know you've probably been to those, and I've been to those too, where it's more speakers and it's more about the inspiration and the motivation and some tools. This was like a boot camp. So like learning how to acquire your first piece under wholesaling, the system, and actually calling people. It was crazy. In this event, they actually, in the middle of it, there's probably, I would say like 800 or 900 people here at this event, maybe a little bit under that. Let's say 700. And we're at this event and I'm knowing this is coming. I know in the emails and stuff, we would actually be doing calls and I wasn't sure how that was going to happen. And we go through this conference and in about halfway point the first day, they hand out these lead sheets after they've talked about what wholesaling is, how you're going to do it. They spend money on getting these leads for us. And they just gave you a paper with the leads on it. You didn't know who these people are. You knew that they were in the market for potentially selling their home or in the past they had it was expired listing, all this stuff. I don't want to get into details of that. That's more of a what is wholesaling boot camp. But they gave us these leads and you actually had to make these calls, which was super nerve-wracking because you had a little bit of a script. Other than that, you were just building rapport and you were just hopping on this line. You were talking with sellers. Some that answered were very excited. Some weren't so excited. Some said, hang up the dang phone. everything in between. What I'm really grateful for is I had a lot of experience talking with people on the phone, being in direct sales with Cutco and being in that industry. So that part for me was normal. And I'm very grateful for that experience because I could tell that I had a lot of experience and skills that a lot of people didn't have being on the phone. And that definitely helped me out a lot. But nonetheless, it was a brand new experience and was difficult. But what was really cool with this event is that everybody was doing that too, whether they were young or old, and there was everybody in between. People that have built $1 million businesses trying to get into real estate and wholesaling, that have done amazing things, have made a lot of money, and this was brand new for them. And so what I found myself in was this arena of people that were doing wholesaling for, most of them was like the first time, learning this skill for the first time. And I immediately was like, wow, I'm not the only one. Like everybody else in this room is trying to learn the same thing and going through the same growing pains and pain points as I am. This is really cool. And that gave me a lot of like inspiration. And it really made me just think instantly back to the moment of not going, because I would have missed out on that opportunity to be around other people that were doing this and going after these things and being okay with like failing and struggling in the moment, because some of them didn't go that well. Some of the calls did not go that well. It was like a straight hang up, and you'd laugh about it with each other and you'd talk about it and get coached, and there are people there to help you. And again, I can't say enough to what the team there with Carlos and Chris did, just helping us and guiding us through this pathway. But what I really want to get to is my first point. And there's 4 to 5 here in this conversation, but number one is just the similar people you'll meet when you get into the spaces that you want to be in. And you realize that you're not alone, and there's a lot of people doing this. You're not the only one doing it. But sometimes it takes a mindset that says, I'm going to do what it takes to get into that space. And that's not always easy. It takes effort, it takes time, it takes resources, and it takes that leap of faith to just go there. But then you realize that there's so many other people that are trying to do exactly what you're doing and are very open to helping you in that process. And that's the second thing I learned, is that when you get into these spaces that you want to be in, although sometimes they're difficult, there are so many people that want to help. There are so many people that want to help guide you and work with you. Specifically from this conference, not only just Chris and Carlos and the other mentors, but I met this couple, and they ended up partnering with Chris and Carlos during this event for kind of this new coaching program they were doing, bringing on partners for 2024. But their story was really impactful to me. This guy, he had done millions and millions of dollars in business. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was in like the plumbing and electrical side of things, doing amazing things. And unfortunately, a family member in his family had come down with something that was costing them like 30 to 40 grand a month on medical bills, which is crazy. And, he was such a successful guy, but yet being humble enough to learn something new because he wanted more time back. He knew the business he was in was just working him to death. And I remember going through a couple calls and a couple sellers that were really close. And I didn't know if he had done or like wholesaling or not, but I remember just being like, hey, man, I really don't really know what I'm doing right now. Can you like read what I have going on and let me know if I'm on the right track? And I was nervous, thinking that he'll probably just walk away because this guy had done millions in business. He was just all successful. And man, we had like this 20-30 minute conversation. And what I really got from it is, man, this guy didn't need to stop, but he was so kind. Him and his wife talked with me. They encouraged me. They were right there with me and just so supportive, and told me about their story, and were so excited about what I was doing. And man, we had just such an amazing interaction, and it was all off me just asking for help. And in the moment, I'm like, man, they're just going to disregard it and just probably walk away. But that was a negative thought on my end. Turned into be such a influential just moment in my life. And he told me, when he was younger and trying to make it, and how close he was to, going bankrupt at one time, to like, losing his business. And like, man, all of that was just so like, just impactful for me to hear as a younger person. And I'm so thankful for that. But I realized that there's so many people there, and he was just one of the people that are there to help you and there to guide you. When you go to an event like that, you'll realize that you are around a lot of similar people that want to help you because they know what it's like to be there, and they want to get the exact same thing from this event and from people. And so that was something I really noticed and I thought was really special at this event. Outside of that is, really the growth that you get from being at these events. Pace talks about it. Pace Morby, if you haven't searched him up, guy that's killing it in the wholesale and rental industry in a completely different way, with Sub2 and Gator and all these things. But man, he said this, and I've heard it from other people too, but he said this: once your mind is stretched to a certain space, it can't go back. Meaning once you hear something and learn something, it's really, really difficult for your mind to just forget about that and go back to the way it was thinking. And you can't help but stretch your mind when you go to an event like this, because the people there are doing things that you've maybe never heard of or didn't even think were possible. And it really blows your mind and opens you up to a whole new space of thinking about how life could be, or what you could build your business on, or how you can make money, whatever it is. It opens up your mind to a whole new thing, which is really incredible, and was a really cool opportunity for me to be able to expose myself to that, knowing that there's so many people in the real estate industry that don't know half of the stuff that was talked about. And for me, it was like completely new. But I mean, it's just such amazing opportunity. So when you have something, place you want to get into, like somebody you've been studying for a while and and you're like, man, I'm curious about that. Not just like, oh, I saw you, I want to go. Or like, wow, that guy looks kind of cool on Instagram, which is easy to fall into. And I've done it before too. I've been someone that, you see something flashy and you go for it. I mean, like, find somebody that you're like, there's something here that I want to take and I want to implement this. And that doesn't mean 100% or, everything. It's like, I want to take something here because I know it's going to be valuable. And if you want to get into a space like that and you're like, man, I want to learn that, just do it. Because what's the worst that can happen? You learn something new. I promise you it'll affect part of your life moving forward, because you'll understand things in a different way. And when an opportunity comes, or that next step in life, you're going to think back to that and say, hey, I should pull this and plug it here. I should take this and plug it here. Because if you don't, you're always going to be asking the question, what if? And none of us like asking that question to ourselves. I know that. And it gets annoying. So, man, if you have something you want to do, or a space you want to get into, just go and do it. Get into it and just invest in yourself, because that's somewhere where you can't go wrong. You can invest in a lot of things, but invest in yourself in a way that's going to help you grow for the future. And sometimes that takes time, resources. Often it takes both of those. Just do it, because you're going to benefit in the future. And one of the last things I want to talk about with this event that was really amazing is the energy that you get and the people that you get to connect with. Now, those of you, like I said, that are trying something brand new or in a new space or not really sure where to go, I promise you, when you go to these spaces and you find these new connections, you're going to meet people that you just find yourself like there's something attracting you to them. And I'm going to get in the comments, or someone's going to message, oh, all this energy stuff. Okay. Whatever you want to use in this place. I'm going to use the word energy because it is energy. Like, there's people that you walk into a room and you see them and you hear them, or you meet them and you're like, I don't know what it is, but there's something about that person that just brings me into them. Like the energy they have, their persona, like something pulls you in. And I know if you're listening to this, you have that person in your life, or you've met multiple where you're like, there's all these other people. And then, whoa, like something about that person just pulled me in. And I had one of these people at this event. His name was Bryant. Shout out Bryant if you're listening to this at some point. A young guy out of the States. And I didn't know him at all during this conference. I didn't really even have a chance to talk to him a ton because of everything that was going on. But with hundreds of people there, all this happening, he was across the event, like from me, probably like 40, 50 feet away. And I remember him getting a mic at the beginning. They were doing these questions and he said something, and it wasn't even anything really about what he said. And then I saw him speaking and I was like, man, that guy seems super cool. Like I need to go talk to him. And he ended up we had these colors. We had like a red, green, yellow, and blue colors. And the whole group was divided into those colors because we were competing on a point system for the wholesale deals. And he ended up being Team Green's captain, which was, I was on Team Green. He ended up being our team captain, which was cool. And I remember during a break, he was walking into the event. I just said, "Hey, Bryant." He kind of turns around, wondering who called him. I was like, "Hey, man, like, my name's Isaac. I just wanted to come introduce myself. Excited for you to be team captain. Let's go crush this." Like, fist bumped him. And we kind of went our separate ways, started the next section of the event. And I remember just as that event was going on, he was across from me, and there was just something that was like, man, I feel like we're going to be friends. Just weird. It was like, man, we're going to be buddies. Like, did we just become best friends? Like stepbrothers? It's like, dude, did we just become best friends? Right? Or best friends, or yeah, I think that's what it is on Step Brothers. Forgive my Step Brothers knowledge, but I just had that feeling, and I don't know what else it is other than just the energy he brought and something about him. And there was one specific part of this event where it was actually really emotional. Chris was asking from the front, really, what's your why? What's your why and what's motivating you? He asked that question, and I remember Brian picked up the mic after a couple people. He got a chance to pick it up, and I had my hand up too. And there's hundreds of people, so he got a chance to have the mic, and he stood up and he started talking. And I don't take this lightly, but exactly the same things that I was like gonna say, like almost word for word, my why and like where I wanted to like go with this and what my like vision was for like life was, he just started speaking it. And I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. And I'm almost kind of tearing out because it was an emotional setting and a lot of like personal stuff was shared, and kind of tearing up across the room. And he finishes up what he was saying, and I'm just kind of sitting there like, whoa, like that was nuts. Like so crazy that I kept my hand up because I wanted to say that exactly what he said just was what I wanted to say too. And I thought it'd be powerful. I didn't get the mic, but I remember just really soaking that in. And after the event, I mean, things were like crazy. I had to go like I had to go get my ride and like leave right before the event was over, but we had one small break in between there. And I remember going to the other side and like finding him in this hectic environment. People are calling people and trying to close a deal. I just said, "Hey, Bryant, like, I don't know where that came from, or like if it was just coincidence or whatever it was, but I just want to let you know everything that you said across there was like exactly what I wanted to say when I had my hand raised. And when you were talking, like there was this crazy connection, man." And it was wild because he was like, "Dude, like I felt like the same thing. I felt like there was like this like connection." And I know you're probably like, I'm gonna get in the comments like, this is weird. But I truly believe that there are certain people that have an energy that you're gonna just get attracted to. And if it's the right connection, you're both gonna feel that. And it's like, I don't know what this is gonna turn into, if it's a business partnership, a friendship, a connection, whatever it is. I got something valuable from that. And he's like, "Dude, I felt the same. Like that was weird. And like we barely talked. You're from Canada, I'm from the US. Like this is wild." And followed each other. We've been texting a little bit after that, but I just thought that was a really cool experience. And I don't know where that's going to lead. I know he's excited about the wholesaling, what he's building, and just a great guy to be around. Like at the minimum, it's going to be a great connection, whether we meet up in the States or do business together or work out together or whatever, do a trip together. He's going to be something. I remember that impact he had. And that's really one of my last points is then you go to these events, you go to places and spaces, and it doesn't have to be across the world. It doesn't have to be to the States. It doesn't have to be hours away. It doesn't have to cost you thousands. Get into new spaces that are actually going to challenge you and put you around people that are going to push you. So my last point is put yourself in a space that challenges you, not just where you're comfortable. Because a lot of us put ourselves in spaces and our places where we've been comfortable for too long. And you're like, wow, I know all this. I'm the top dog. I feel good. Pumps me up because I feel cool. But it's not pushing you. Go somewhere where you're like almost shaking in your boots. You're excited, but you're like, man, this is nerve-wracking because I've never done this before. and watch how you're going to be challenged to a new height, because there's always somebody better. There's always somebody that's more talented or skilled or doing things at a higher level. And it's only going to elevate you to work harder if you're a high achiever. It's only going to push you to move faster and get better at things, instead of the other way around where you're almost feeling like you're drugged down. And we've all been there before. So really, to sum that up, I mean, put yourself in spaces, especially if you're doing something brand new that you've never done before. Put yourself in a space where you know there's other people doing it and someone you admire that you want to learn from, and soak that up. You're not alone with it. Number two is create new connections that are going to be impactful for your life. Could be business or personal. They're going to be impactful for your life. Even if it's like one or two or three, if you've got 3 or 5 really good friends, man, you're doing great. You're doing great. And that doesn't matter where they're located. Number 3 is just always grow. Find places where you're going to push yourself. Find places that are going to challenge you to do something incredible and difficult. All right. Not just easy. And number 5 is just people want to help. People want to help, and people are generally there to help you do what you want to get out of it. And in return, they're looking for value too from it. And when you go to these spaces, you'll find that people are thinking very much like you. You're not going to feel super weird anymore. Like at that event, I did not feel weird about wanting to do wholesaling or learn this, or I felt like I was in a group of people that wanted to do the same thing. So with that being said, whether you're doing something new, whether you're like trying something that you've never done before, or you feel like you're just in a new space in life where you're like, I've never been here before, I'm kind of in this like crossroads, man, get into groups that are going to challenge you, and get into groups that are going to lift you up and push you to do what you want to do. And they're not going to think about your idea, your vision as weird. They're going to be like, man, that's super cool. Man, this is what I did to get here. I hope you can get value from it. And those people are here to help you. So whatever it is, man, I encourage you to do it. If it costs some time and money, I encourage you to get into that space, because it's going to be worth it. You're not going to be thinking about the $300 flight or the $100 hotel or the $100 vehicle rental, whatever it is. You're going to be thinking of what you got with that, because it's going to give you so much value for years to come. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode today, man. I had a lot of fun with that. I hope you guys really enjoyed. Like always, man, please share this with somebody that you know is going to, it's going to have an impact on them, with somebody that you know is going to benefit from this. And if you just do that with one person, that's going to compound, because they're going to share that. And it's the easiest way to get word out about this show. Thanks so much for joining. I'm super excited for next week and for you guys to listen to this week's message. And with that being said, get outside the box. Have a killer week. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, be sure to like and subscribe down below. It means the world to me. It's totally free and is by far the best way to support the channel and get the word out. But more than that, please share this episode with somebody that you know would benefit from it and really needs to hear today's message. And reminder, a new episode drops every Monday, so be on the lookout for that. Other than that, have a great rest of your week, crush it, and don't forget to get outside the box. We'll see you on the next one.